On March 13th, one day ago, 6 Iranian ballistic missiles struck Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates. The missiles hit aircraft shelters housing U.S. Air Force F-35A Lightning II stealth fighters. 7 F-35s were destroyed. 12 American airmen were killed. The attack happened at 3:22 a.m. local time. By 9:00 a.m., UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed had convened an emergency meeting with his National Security Council. By 2:00 p.m., the UAE ambassador delivered a message to U.S. Central Command. The United Arab Emirates cannot guarantee the safety of American forces at Dhafra Air Base and is requesting a phased withdrawal beginning within 48 hours. That is not a request for increased security. That is not a temporary evacuation during heightened threat. That is a Gulf ally telling the United States to leave. And if the UAE forces America out of Dhafra, Saudi Arabia will follow with Prince Sultan Air Base. Then Qatar closes Al Udeid, and the United States loses every major forward operating base in the Persian Gulf region. Iran will have won this war without firing another shot. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happened at Dhafra, why the UAE broke with America after hosting U.S. forces for over 20 years, how Iran destroyed 7 of the most advanced stealth fighters ever built while they were parked on the ground, and why this attack represents the strategic collapse of the entire U.S. military posture in the Middle East. Quick, before we continue, thanks a lot for tuning in. Your support is what keeps this show going, and I appreciate you watching. Please make sure you're subscribed and like the video so more people get to see this. Now, let's get to it. We are now at day 15 of this war. Iran has launched over 650 ballistic missiles and 2,600 drones since February 28th. The United States and Israel have struck more than 6,000 targets inside Iran. The cost of American operations alone has exceeded $12 billion. And despite 2 weeks of sustained bombardment, Iran is still launching coordinated strikes against U.S. military installations across the region. Dhafra Air Base is the second largest U.S. military facility in the UAE after the naval base in Jebel Ali. The base is located approximately 32 kilometers south of Abu Dhabi. It hosts roughly 5,000 U.S. military personnel. The primary mission is air superiority and strike operations. The base houses F-35A stealth fighters, KC-135 aerial refueling tankers, and MQ-9 Reaper drones. It also serves as a logistics hub for U.S. operations throughout the Gulf. Most people think that Gulf states host American forces because they want U.S. protection. That is partially true, but the deeper reality is that Gulf states host American forces because they had no choice. The U.S. has spent decades building military infrastructure in these countries and using that infrastructure to justify continued presence. The arrangement worked as long as the threats were distant. Terrorist groups, rogue militias, Iranian proxies operating hundreds of miles away. But when Iran starts firing ballistic missiles directly at the bases where American forces are stationed, the calculation changes completely. Here's what happened at Dhafra on March 13th, according to U.S. Air Force's Central Preliminary Battle Damage Reports. At approximately 3:14 a.m. local time, CENTCOM radar systems detected 6 ballistic missile launches from western Iran. Trajectory analysis identified Dhafra as the probable target. Alert systems activated. Personnel began moving to hardened shelters. Fighter pilots scrambled toward their aircraft in case an immediate launch order was issued. At 3:22 a.m., the first missile impacted. The Khorramshahr-4 ballistic missile carries a unitary warhead with approximately 1,500 to 1,800 kilograms of high explosive. The missile struck Aircraft Shelter 7, a hardened concrete structure designed to protect parked aircraft from blast effects and shrapnel. The warhead penetrated the shelter roof and detonated inside. 2 F-35A fighters were parked inside. Both aircraft were destroyed instantly. The explosion collapsed portions of the shelter structure. Over the next 90 seconds, 5 additional missiles impacted at Dhafra. 3 struck aircraft shelters, 1 hit a maintenance hangar, 1 impacted near fuel storage tanks but failed to ignite secondary fires. The 3 shelters that were hit contained a total of 7 F-35A Lightning II fighters. All 7 aircraft were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. 12 U.S. Air Force personnel were killed. Most were maintenance crews, working night shifts, preparing aircraft for morning sorties. 19 additional personnel were injured, 8 critically. The F-35A Lightning II, whereas Stowell II is the most expensive fighter aircraft in U.S. military history. Unit cost per aircraft is approximately $80 million to $100 million, depending on configuration, and whether you include development costs. 7 aircraft destroyed equals $560 million to $700 million in direct losses. But the strategic cost is far higher because each F-35 lost represents a reduction in stealth strike capacity that cannot be rapidly replaced. The U.S. produces roughly 120 to 150 F-35s per year across all variants for the Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and foreign allies. Replacing 7 aircraft takes months, even under accelerated production schedules. And here's the detail that makes this attack strategically devastating. Iran targeted the shelters with precision. The Khorramshahr 4 has a reported circular error probable of 2 to 5 meters when using terminal guidance. That means the missile can hit within 2 to 5 meters of its programmed target coordinates. Iran used satellite imagery and signals intelligence to identify which shelters housed F-35s and which housed less valuable aircraft. The missiles did not hit empty shelters. They did not hit older F-16s or support aircraft. They hit the exact shelters where the F-35s were parked. Now we need to talk about why the UAE issued a 48-hour withdrawal request. Because this is not about the cost of replacing aircraft or even the deaths of 12 American airmen. This is about the UAE recognizing that hosting American forces makes the UAE a primary Iranian target, and that the U.S. cannot protect UAE territory from Iranian missiles. The United Arab Emirates is located approximately 150 miles across the Persian Gulf from Iran. Iranian ballistic missiles launched from coastal facilities near Bushehr can reach Abu Dhabi in 6 to 8 minutes. The UAE has no layered air defense system comparable to Israel's Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow 3 network. The UAE operates THAAD and Patriot batteries provided by the United States, but those systems are optimized for high-altitude interception of medium to long-range missiles. They struggle with the terminal phase of ballistic missile attacks and cannot provide area defense for an entire city like Abu Dhabi or Dubai. Here's the calculation that UAE leadership made after the Al Dhafra strike. If Iran can destroy 7 F-35s on a heavily defended U.S. airbase, Iran can destroy anything in the UAE. Oil refineries, desalination plants, power generation facilities, Dubai's financial district, Abu Dhabi's government buildings. The UAE has built its entire economy on stability, tourism, and foreign investment. A single Iranian missile strike on the Burj Khalifa or Dubai International Airport would cause economic damage in the tens of billions and trigger a collapse in investor confidence that could take years to recover from. And the UAE cannot shoot down Iranian missiles reliably enough to prevent that outcome. The math does not work. If Iran launches 20 missiles at Dubai, maybe UAE air defenses intercept 15, but 5 get through. And 5 missiles hitting central Dubai is a catastrophic event that destroys the UAE's economic model. So the UAE is making the same calculation that every Gulf state is making right now. Is hosting American forces worth the risk of becoming Iran's next target? And the UAE has decided the answer is no. On March 13th, hours after the Al Dhafra strike, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed convened an emergency National Security Council meeting. According to sources who spoke to Reuters, the discussion centered on whether the UAE could continue hosting U.S. forces while Iran is actively targeting those forces with ballistic missiles. The consensus was that the UAE cannot. By 2:00 p.m., the UAE ambassador to the United States delivered a formal diplomatic message to CENTCOM and the Pentagon. The message stated that the UAE cannot guarantee the safety and security of U.S. personnel at Al Dhafra Air Base and requested that the United States begin planning for a phased withdrawal of forces within 48 hours. That phrasing is critical. The UAE did not say, please increase defensive measures. The UAE did not say, we need more Patriot batteries. The UAE said it cannot guarantee American safety and asked the U.S. to leave. That is a host nation telling a military partner that the arrangement is over. This is not the first time a U.S. ally has forced American troops to withdraw under fire. On October 23, 1983, a suicide truck bomb struck the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut, Lebanon. The attack killed 241 American service members. It was the deadliest single-day loss for the U.S. military since the first day of the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. The Marines were in Lebanon as part of a multinational peacekeeping force. After the bombing, President Reagan initially vowed to keep forces in place. But by February 1984, the Marines were withdrawn. The U.S. could not protect its forces on Lebanese soil. The Lebanese government could not provide security guarantees. And staying in Beirut meant accepting ongoing casualties with no clear mission objective. The UAE in 2026 is following the same logic that Lebanon followed in 1984. The difference is that the UAE is not asking the U.S. to leave because of terrorism or militia attacks. The UAE is asking the U.S. to leave because a nation-state military force is firing precision ballistic missiles at American bases, and the U.S. cannot stop them. And here is where the strategic domino effect begins. If the UAE forces the U.S. out of Al Dhafra, Saudi Arabia will immediately face pressure to do the same at Prince Sultan Air Base. Saudi Arabia already got hit 2 days ago when Iran struck Prince Sultan with 3 Sejil missiles. Saudi leadership is watching what the UAE does. If the UAE expels American forces and Iran stops targeting UAE infrastructure, that proves the strategy works. Saudi Arabia will follow. Then Qatar looks at Al Udeid Air Base, which hosts 10,000 U.S. military personnel and serves as the forward headquarters for CENTCOM. If both the UAE and Saudi Arabia have kicked out American forces, Qatar becomes the sole remaining major U.S. base in the immediate Gulf region. That makes Al Udeid the highest priority Iranian target. Qatar will close the base preemptively rather than wait for Iran to destroy it. And once all three countries force the U.S. out, American military presence in the Persian Gulf collapses. No forward air bases, no logistics hubs, no refueling infrastructure. The U.S. would have to operate from bases in Iraq, Jordan, and Djibouti, all of which are farther from Iranian targets and face their own security challenges. Iran wins the war without firing another shot. The U.S. withdraws not because it was defeated militarily, but because its allies chose survival over alliance. Most people think the F-35 is invincible because of its stealth technology. The aircraft is designed to evade radar detection and penetrate enemy air defenses. But stealth does not help when the aircraft is parked in a concrete shelter at a known airbase. Iran did not need to defeat the F-35's stealth. Iran just needed to know where the F-35s were parked and fire missiles with enough precision to hit those shelters. And Iran proved it can do exactly that. The Khorramshahr-4 missiles that hit Al Dhafra were not random strikes hoping to hit valuable targets. They were precision strikes that hit the exact shelters where F-35s were located. That means Iran has overhead satellite imagery detailed enough to identify individual aircraft shelters. It means Iran has signals intelligence or human intelligence sources that can confirm which shelters house which aircraft types, and it means Iran has the targeting data and missile accuracy to hit those shelters from 800 miles away. The U.S. spent over $1 trillion developing the F-35 program. The aircraft is supposed to represent American technological dominance, and Iran just destroyed 7 of them on the ground using missiles that cost $1 million each. 7 missiles, 7 F-35s, $560 million to $700 million in losses. And the host nation where those aircraft were based is now asking the United States to leave. Now, towards the end here, I want to show you the timeline that reveals how fast the Gulf coalition is collapsing. Because this is not a gradual erosion of alliances over months or years. This is a collapse happening in days. March 11th, Iran strikes Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia with Sajal missiles. 3 missiles hit the base. Damage to U.S. command facilities. Saudi Arabia issues no public statement supporting continued U.S. presence. March 13th, Iran destroys 7 F-35s at Al Dhafra Air Base in UAE. 12 Americans killed. UAE requests U.S. withdrawal within 48 hours. March 14th, today. Qatar's foreign minister gives an interview to Al Jazeera and refuses to commit to keeping Al Udeid open if regional security deteriorates further. That is diplomatic language for "we are preparing to close the base." 4 days, 3 Gulf states, all moving toward the same conclusion. Hosting American forces is not worth the risk when Iran can hit those forces with ballistic missiles and the U.S. cannot stop the attacks. And the broader pattern keeps accelerating. Over 1,400 Iranian civilians confirmed dead. 19 American service members killed across the region. The Strait of Hormuz closed for 15 days. Oil prices holding above $115 per barrel. And now, the United States is losing its forward base structure in the Gulf because allies are choosing Iranian missiles over American protection.